So here we are in its beginning of the episode 3 of Applied Theory, and we're looking at the 5 pentatonic scales, which are basically, as in the previous video, towards about halfway through we discussed the major scale. So in this example would be in G. Essentially what we're doing is removing a few notes from the major scale. So the major scale is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a diatonic scale. And a pentatonic scale is simply a 5-note variation. And it's very popular with rock, funk, and there's dozens and dozens of styles to use these kind of. And then again we've got the minor scale, for example. The pentatonic of the minor scale in its root position is. So we're going to look through those today anyway. So we've got the first position. Well, you can start it. Basically, you can start from the major scale or start from the minor scale, major pentatonic or minor pentatonic. I'm going to start from the major pentatonic, and I'll kind of cover why that is the case. But the major pentatonic, as you can see written out here, so we've got there are roots which are both G, because we're in G here for the example. So there's your G, 3rd fret, 0, 1, 2, 3. Those are G's, and then you go up to A, B, D, E, G again, A, B. Let's see if you've got a nice clear shot of that so you can see it more comfortably. So G, A, B, D, E, A, B, A, B, sorry. A bit smoother. 1, 2. And that's kind of your shape there, so you can see that. So that's the first position pentatonic, or the major pentatonic. Second position, and play that also in G. And it's essentially shifting a couple of notes, but let's see. I'll play it first on camera, and then let's line up a nice straight position. Now with the major pentatonic that we previously showed before, that would be in G. But you can stack these on top of each other, so this would actually be in A. So you kind of can stack them together like that. But just so you can learn the shapes initially, you want to be looking at doing it in G, A, C, D, oh, that's right, F. But you can actually play them all together in one sequence. And then so the next scale we're looking at, the third position, so we're going to do it in G, is root, minor 3rd, 4th, minor 6th, 7th, flat 7th, octave. So let's get into that so it's not really guppy facing it. So as before, you've got major, so first position, second position, and then you move up to B now for third position. And then you can tie them all together. There we go. So that's kind of the first 3 positions. The next position we're looking at, so in G it would be G, A, C, D, A, G, sorry, E, G, A, C. So it's got those kind of 2 on, so 2, 4, sorry, 2, 5, 2, 5, and then 3, 5, 3, 5. And if we tie them all together, we're putting that up to, what would it be, C? Oh, I've forgotten the shape. There we go. And that's actually the beginning of our major pentatonic again from G there. We're adding the D and the C. So all together you would have position would be our infamous minor pentatonic, which you can't see. There we go. Minor pentatonic, which would go up to E, I believe. Where would it be? Which is an E. But in G, so G. G, A sharp, C, D, F, G, and then B flat and C. I'm just going to confirm that I've connected these together correctly as well. So we start on G with the major, A, B, and I think the last note is actually D there for that. So I might have made a mistake there. And then E. Let me just pause and come back and double check if I got that right. Yeah, so I have got that right. I just double checked. I want to make sure I was giving you accurate information. So the sequence of the pentatonics is G. So if we're in G, for example, and this, if you were in C, you would move. You'd move up accordingly in the same increments across the neck, but starting from C. But with G, we're going to go with major, second position, third position, and then fourth position, because I made a mistake by doing it in C earlier, and then E, and the next phase I wanted to move on to, which is to kind of give a bit of context as to how to create pentatonics, is to look at these two scales. So you may or may not know what the Phrygian mode is or the Locrian mode, but we'll come to that in not the next video but the video after. We're going to do quite an extensive video about the modes in general. But it's based loosely when we create, so we look at, we had the 5 notes of which each position made of the scale made a pentatonic. So in this case G, A, C, B, D, A, G. But with the major scale there's 7 notes, so you get so on and so forth. You've got 7 positions in the major scale, but we'll come back to that, not next video but the video after, and I've got another video about the modes that I may link as well. But this is a pentatonic basically based on a different scale. So the scale it's based on, if we play it in G, is called Phrygian. Let's see, let's get a nice clean angle. Phrygian is root, flat second, flat third, fourth, fifth, flat sixth, flat seventh, octave. So that's vaguely relevant. But what we're playing here is root, flat second, fourth, fifth, flat seventh, octave. So if I do that with this up here, you got, it's quite a cool sound, and I believe that's the first position. I'm not sure if the fifth position is actually also called hirojoshi, but it's the fifth position of hirojoshi, which we've got over here on the right, which is based on Blockroom, which again, in the modes video, that will all be explained and it'll become quite apparent. But for now, it's just an example of, you can take more or less any scale, as far as I'm aware, any diatonic scale, and turn it into a pentatonic. So say you had something like Lydian, which is another scale. Well, yeah, the hirojoshi is a great example, actually. We'll stick with that. So we got the Phrygian scale, and we've taken out the third and the sixth there, and we've just got makes quite a cool sound. Oh, I'm missing a note. Fuck. Hopefully I'll edit out my swearing. I wasn't missing a note. So yeah, the fifth position of hirojoshi then, in G, would be the same thing. Root, flat second, fourth, flat five, seventh, octave. And that's my favourite one. You can stack them together as well. So say you did the first hirojoshi in G, then you move on to the second or the fifth position. So what am I trying to do? There we go. Excuse me. So you've got first position, fifth position, shifting up to the D. I didn't do that very well. Let's try that one more time. Root, flat second, fourth, fifth, and then you start the fifth mode. So you can jump that up to here, for example, or you can start it on the A string. And the combination of those two makes quite a nice. I'm quite a fan of using it. You can put it in E, for example. So this is kind of an example that you can make any diatonic scale into a pentatonic, and I think you can be selective, as far as I gather anyway, you can be selective about which notes you actually choose to omit, so you can play around with that quite a bit. I'm not going to include the other positions of hirojoshi, but you can work them out if it's of interest to you. The next scale I wanted to cover, just before I move on, is the blues scale. So if you take all the way back, where is it? Fifth position, minor pentatonic. So in G we've got root, flat third, fourth, fifth, flat seventh, octave. Would that be 10th, 13th, or whatever. If you add in this tritone, which we learned about tritones in the previous lesson, you add it at the top there as well. And as you can see here, I've included in the blues scale the note in blue. That is your blue note. Now it's usually used as a passing tone, but it is pretty. makes pretty cool sounds. You get the idea. So you can sort of play around with the blues scale, but that's just one more scale. But this is a pentatonic, but with an additional note. So it's got the root octave, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 notes. And this is going to kind of lead us on to the next lesson, which is going to be what I call hybrid scales. I don't know if that's technically the correct term for them, but it's basically a combination of, say, a pentatonic or even a diatonic scale, but with the addition of one extra note or the omission of one extra note. And by doing that, you can combine multiple scales. So I'm going to probably leave that now until the next lesson, but hopefully this has been useful for you. But it's been applied theory, the 5 pentatonic scales based on the major/minor scale, and it also gives you a bit of insight into how to make your own pentatonics. So when we're looking around later on in different scales, you might be able to make variations of that, of different scales for your own entertainment. So like I mentioned, Lydian. Lydian is, for example, a major scale with a sharp 4. Oh, let's get that lined up straight. So you can miss out the 5th there, for example, and just play. And they make some pretty funky, kind of like weird. That one is, for example, the whole tone scale. Weird scale, but you can make pentatonics out of those scales. So that's kind of, I've waffled a little bit, but that's the rough gist of how pentatonics work. You can take any, more or less any diatonic scale and select 5 notes out of it within reason, and then you can make a scale out of that, and hopefully you go back if you need to and look at the actual shapes of the 5 traditional pentatonic scales. So yeah, just as my delightful partner happened to accidentally come in at just the wrong time, I didn't really get a chance to say goodbye. Thank you. This has been Applied Theory 3, the pentatonic scales, and we discussed how to form pentatonics, ideas that we're moving forward when we learn some more scales we'll be able to apply to various forms of scale and diatonic pattern. And thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.